All right, before we get into this video, I gotta pay tribute to this turntable. The other one's over there, but this is, it started as a Mark II. I gave my friend Mike, DJ Grasshopper, some plates, chassis of 1200s, and was like, he said he had some paint left over from painting a car. He paints cars, and he's a dope drum and bass DJ. And so he painted these chassis and gave them back to me. I'm trying to capture the green here. And I started putting them back together and realized I had the guts, or that these were a Mark V or M3D chassis, and I had Mark II guts. And so I had to do a lot of finagling to get this together. And I did, and I was kind of under the pressure. I didn't really have to, but I took these out to Northern Nights, like right after they got together. Which, sometimes we do stuff that's, let's just call it stupid, but for the benefit of everybody. And these are painted with car paint that you can't even get in California. I don't even think they make the color anymore. And so I got these together with the intention of selling them. I actually bought this pair of turntables to fix them up and resell because I needed the money. And then when I finished the decks, I was like, there is no way I'm going to sell these things. There's no way I'll ever be able to get this again. So these are like my favorite decks. And thanks, Mike, for painting such dope turntables. And now I have a truck that is wrapped in a very similar color palette as a tribute to these decks. And so today we've got a new turntable, and I got a lot of people asking me if I'm fixing turntables anymore, and I do not. I am buying new ones because they make new ones now. Tribute to the 1200, but today we're opening up a new turntable. I'm sure you've seen plenty of, there's a lot of unboxing. This is not something new for this turntable, but for me it's just a new turntable. And it reminds me of a couple other times where I took a leap and bought some DJ gear and sat in regret, while the purchase was new. And looking back on those times, they were some of the best decisions I made, even though they were hard, and created stress just because these things are a lot of money. So why did I buy a new turntable? I have, I think, a dozen 1200s, like a couple pairs that are working, and then a bunch that are taken apart. And I repaired 1200s from 2009 till shortly out, up until I stopped. For about 10 years, I fixed and repaired, refurbished, customized 1200s, really out of necessity. I had one that I broke, found another one in a pawn shop that was broken. At that point, I was like, well, what can I lose? I got two broken turntables. I either fix them and end up with one turntable. I kind of bought the second one in order to fix the first one. But I was able to fix them both, and it felt so good because not only did I have a second set of turntables after kind of being limping without one, I borrowed one for a while, and that really empowered me as always to practice at home. I'd have to take my turntables, set them up, and then I'd have a gig and I'd have to take them apart, put them in the cases, take them down, and man, those things, they are tanks. The Technics 1200. There is not, I haven't encountered too many electronic devices that are like this thing. It's just a really elegant, well-made machine that lasts a long time. And I would say that you can take a 1200 out of the box, in 1982 and, it not do a thing to it, and it could still be working today. It's But you should do things to it, like you should oil the spindle every 6 months, whether you use them or not, keeping dust off of them. They're very delicate machines. And so the Techniques stopped making them, 2010, I believe, is when they ended the run. And no one has turntables from 2010. No one was buying new Techniques in 2010. That like waned off, 2007, 8, with those M5Gs, people were buying those, but even those are highly sought after and worth almost like double. So today you can still buy a 1200 randomly, for $500, a used 1200. But why I don't fix them anymore? I used to kind of charge a flat rate for labor of $200 per deck, and then whatever you had to spend on parts, I would fix. So whether that was the tone arm or you needed a new platter, or most of the time it was RCAs, and sometimes new pitch fader or calibration. But I would do things like change the LEDs, upgrade pitch faders, take the click out if necessary, switched out to powder coated chassis. Nothing too crazy, but really, where I got to that was, it was better to take the whole thing apart and put it back together and make sure that everything is addressed. Because it's kind of like, once there's a lot of screws holding these things together, and once you get in there, you should just kind of take care of everything. So that was why I offered this flat rate, and that's what most people did. So $400 plus parts, and you got yourself a new deck. So you could buy, a set for like $700 to $8,000, and then spend another $500, $600, and have some really good, like new condition. I wouldn't, unless you were spending the money on a fresh powder coated set. They didn't look new, but they functioned like new. And you could keep getting parts. At first I was able to get parts directly from Techniques, and then they kind of shifted to the seller was just basically eBay. And so you would get parts on eBay, and it would go out of stock, and everything came from Japan, and the prices would fluctuate like mad, and there would be no tone arms for a while, and then all of a sudden there would be tone arms, and then all of a sudden 10 sellers would have tone arms, and they would be random sellers that sold hair supplies and stuff. So parts were out there, they had made a bunch of parts at the end of the Techniques run, and so they kind of were supplying the aftermarket. But then they started making a new turntable a few years ago, the MK7, and the parts for the older turntables started just going up in price and being harder to get. I haven't seen black tone arms for a long time, new ones, for anything less than $400 a piece. They used to be $100. And so people are asking me to fix turntables, and I'm just kind of buy a new one. When I was fixing, and that's a cocky thing to say, I understand that, but they weren't making they wasn't making DJ specific new turntable. I think the PLX 1000 had come out, and that was an acceptable alternative, and it still is. But it's nothing like a 1200 Mark II or Mark V, and that's probably true. And today they do make a range of turntables. They all look identical. There's the MK7, there's the GR, there's the GR2, and the G. And I think the GR2 is replacing the GR, but the GR2 I would probably compare to what we were buying MK2 through 5 or 6 or whatever, and that's a $2,200 turntable. And so that's kind of what I feel is reflective in an aftermarket turntable right now. I could go and buy a set of turntables for $1,000, to repair, but I'm gonna spend $500 or what on parts and then labor. For me, I feel part of being able to offer that $200, I feel that was a low rate, and I did that because I wanted to hook people up, and I wanted them to get the job done right. But I also stood behind my work. I said, if anything goes wrong within a year, bring it back, I'll fix it. And but they do need a lot more maintenance. Once you take that, you can take a turntable out of the box 82, never touch it, still have it work today. Bring it to me, I'll fix it, I'll slightly adjust the pitch fader, clean it, all that stuff. In 2 years, you're gonna have to do that again, adjust the pitch fader. I feel like once you break the seal on these old electronics, they just don't quite stay the same. It's not, you gotta be delicate with it. It's like driving, I compare this to like driving like an old Mustang or something. When I was growing up, you could get an old 60s Mustang for a few $1,000 and fix it up, and maybe worth 10, 20, and now that's like way more. And you don't take your 65 Mustang out all the time. You don't drive that every day. It's fun to look at, and it's probably fixed up. It's worth a lot more. But they make a new Mustang, and you can go buy that Mustang. And if you want to have a Mustang, you can go buy the new Mustang. And today they make a new turntable, and that's, I think, because we kept doing the aftermarket. And like, big respect to the other aftermarket turntable repair guys that really held it down and made it possible for the software and the evolution of vinyl, and the fact that we get more colored vinyl. I think all that's tied together because we didn't give up. And so if you need your turntable fixed, I encourage you to fix it yourself. It's not overly complex. I would say that I took the turntable, put it back together many times, and like little things weren't right. So there are a lot of little nuances that it took me years to figure out before I felt confident servicing people's turntables like that, like where to start the threads and where each screw goes and the slight variations and all those things and different torque settings and how to calibrate the pitch faders and all kinds of things like that. And I have a bunch of parts of turntables that I'll probably put those together at some point, and I'll be able to fix some cords, but that's about it. But I'm moving on. I'm moving on to new turntables, and so I'd like to get the Technics GR2 and compare it to a 1200. But so that's really, I watched a lot of videos on this turntable. As soon as it came out, I was like, that looks cool. And so I'm taking a leap into Pioneer, and the reason why I got this is because I rent or provide turntable and backline, DJ backline for the sound system. And so I don't want to send 1200s out anymore because it costs too much to fix them. I don't want to repair this turntable doesn't go out. I have some that I have rented out even fairly recently, and I'm confident that the people take care of them. But like, if anything happened to those, that's kind of it. They're done, So I got this because I can go buy another one exactly like it if something happens to this. And I know it's not built like a 1200 and maybe won't last as long, but I think it's part of just keeping the industry alive. I felt this like desperation when Technics went out of business, and like this necessity to fix turntables. And really, I'm really glad that they came back, and it was kind of like sticker shock at first of how much the turntable was, but that is totally realistic. Like the new CDJs are like $2,500 each, and you can't spend $1,000 on a really good turntable. I mean, that's really what it should be. I mentioned in my last video that I started off with like the basic stuff, Discman. I would go to the thrift store and buy a turntable if the needle worked and had adjustable pitch. I bought it and I would use that until the needle broke, and then I'd go find another one, and did that until I moved here to Humboldt in 1999. And I had like stuff that I would play with my CD players and a Radio Shack 4-channel mixer with two faders per channel, one for left, one for right. And then I would always go like look at the Porn Sound catalog, or Pro Sound PSSL, Pro Sound and lighting, and oodle over the new DJ gear. And when I would play CDs, but I couldn't really adjust the pitch on a Discman. And so when an adjustable pitch CD player came out, I was like, yeah, I need those. They were really expensive. And then the CDJ 100 came out, and it was still expensive, but less than the ones previously out. So I took a leap and bought those. I think by that time I had like a Newmark, the Blue Dog mixer, the 3-channel, and But then I bought these two CDJs and, you know, really upgraded my DJ thing. And it was like, you know, taking myself seriously. And it was, you know, quickly that became the record store. And the whole, I would say that the instigation of me throwing a party in Humboldt in October 1999, and so many that have come after that. And, you know, if I hadn't taken that leap, now it seems insignificant, but that was the first time I opened up new DJ gear, Pioneer gear, and it was pretty sweet. And then another time that I mentioned in the last video was when I opened the record store. About a few months into it, I was still rocking my thrift store turntables, and I just kind of like, I'd painted and made record racks and made it all look futuristic, and even like, you know, was in Humboldt wearing like raver clothes and kind of trying to look the part. And I looked at my junky stuff and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to walk the talk, you know. And so I bought some 1200s, and they came, and you know, I had this experience of opening them up for the first time. And yeah, I just remember being like, holy shit, what did I do? You know, I spent so much money on TJ gear and I don't know what I'm doing, but man, I took that leap and it was great. I'm probably gonna use these, but I did order some deck savers for these. But again, I didn't use my Techniques ones because it was hard to replace them. And these are replaceable, so I probably will use them. And so I got this a pair of MK3s or M3Ds, and I was like instantly able to beat match on them. It was like I went and took some records from the thing, some house music, and it was like, oh, and it was on after that, you know? Like that was like, I realized how much fun it was to mix. And so I started dragging those turntables home and practicing and taking them back to the store the next day and practice all day. And yeah, it was a good decision. And so about a week later, I got some cases for them, and I was had the case on the counter and put the turntable in the case. Picked it up, and it fell on the ground, upside down. And I had just broken my brand new M3D. And so at that time, Techniques was repairing things in San Francisco, and so I sent it right away, and they put a new tone arm on it, and wow. And I, you know, took my wounds and carried on. And so then when I started fixing turntables, it was like, it was before I started fixing them, but probably 10 years later, had the same turntables in cases and did the exact same thing. Picked up the flight case that was unlatched, it fell out upside down and bent the tone arm, bent the platter, and I was like, damn it. But at that point, there was no Techniques. They were not servicing turntables anymore in that location. And so I put it aside, borrowed a 1200 from a friend for like 6 months just to keep doing gigs. And when they asked for it back, and I was like, okay. But that I had found another one in the pawn shop, and you know, the story I told earlier. So that was the dropping it. The second time was the impetus, or the reason why I ended up repairing them. As I successfully repaired one part, and then kind of the other turntable I bought. Can't remember what was broken on that, but I fixed that. I think I needed a new tone arm. And so carrying on, you know, this reason why I got this turntable today is because it has this wireless thing. And I love my needles and control vinyl, but with the sound system, I'm not gonna fight that battle. And so it's time, you know, phase, when I saw phase come out, I was like, man, that ain't gonna work. But I was wrong. That totally is an acceptable way to, you know, use turntables in a live setting. And I think at the end of the day, I see DJs using phase and they look like they're having a lot of fun. And so I want to kind of get with the times and again, have a turntable that I can use for backline and repair, replace. And this turntable looks amazing. So I'm pretty stoked on it. I'm gonna put it all together and then fire it up and gotta find the screws. Where are the screws at? And can use it side by side. I do have another one and the Pioneer A9 for the Basscraft sound system. And we'll get to using those. In a different video. Does anyone else's IIIs get sticky? I'm not sure what happened to these, but they're sticky. Okay. My first reaction to this turntable is that it's gorgeous. And let's start out with my expectations. Am I expecting it to be a 1200? No, I'm not. I'm expecting it to do the job of spinning a record and sending a signal into a mixer and being sturdy on a stage, which I hope it's as good, at least, as a 1200, but we'll have to test that later with bass. But for now, I just want to feel this thing. It feels great, and I'm gonna play some copywritten music. I was gonna turn it on for the first time here, but overall, mash it up. I already did that off camera. So I'm gonna do the side by side with the 1200, and then I'll take this next door with the new Pioneer mixer, and soon we'll get the CDJs and we'll have that section too. So here we go. All right, well, nothing. It doesn't always have to come easy, man. I'm not gonna lie. It takes a minute to get used to this. I'm used to this tone arm. There's like this zone where I don't go, and on this that doesn't matter. And over here, you know, I mentioned I have this needle drop that I like in Scratch Live, where if I pick up the needle and drop it on the first band in the records, there's 15 on this side. That will go to my first cue point, and the first cue point will be lined up with my sticker at 12 o'clock. So if I drop it over here and go to my first cue point, when I get here, it's right on line. And if I drop it over here, and let's say I go to my third cue point, and there we go, it's still at 12 o'clock. That's called sticker lock. It's a feature in Serato DJ. It was a Easter egg in Scratch Live. I think you had to make a crate with a certain name. And I like that. I like picking up the needle. That keeps me in touch with the vinyl. And I recognize that moving forward with like this phase needleless kind of thing, I'm gonna have to get used to doing it differently. And so I'm gonna spend some time with that and figure it out. I think the best thing to do right now would be to hook up both of these and just kind of dive into this needleless world and getting used to cue points and to be a little bit more prepared with like a playlist of music that's in the same you know, zone that I want to play, and realizing that I don't have that ready at the moment. So thanks for watching this video. Buy some new turntables and take care of yourself. Love you.
Conquering Lion of Judah. As the Almighty. Rastafari, a way of life. A way of life. Conquering lion of Judah.
Your body and your mind.
Nature's God. Nature is our creator.
Gonna be a stormy one tonight, folks.
Alright, so I got to mix a little bit. Dope. I love this thing, but it's definitely different. And I'm gonna miss needle drop. That was like my favorite thing, and why I stuck with Scratch Live for so long, because it just wasn't quite right in Serato DJ, and it still might be different, but it's been so long for Scratch Live, it works well enough for me today. And needles are not going. In fact, I got some of the new Chicos coming. Excited to always use needles, but there's a time and place, and it's not on a stage with like heavy bass being, you know, huge monitors next to you. It's an uphill battle. So that's where like phase or this kind of setup is perfect. And not only do I have to get used to you know, not having a needle, but I'm about to dive into some CDJs too. It's been a long time since I've used those. I went from like, you know, CDJ 100s to like vinyl with 1200s pretty much strictly for a while, and then the CDJ 800 and 1000 came out, and I got a 1-800, and I was like, all right, this is pretty dope. I can mix it just like vinyl. So I got a second one, and then I did one gig where somebody rented my turntables, and I was like only using CDs, and it was like I was like, oh my gosh, I only showed up with these 2 CD players that were half the weight, and my bag of, you know, instead of crates of records, it was just like a backpack full of CDs, and it was, I just put the turntables away for years and only used CDJs for a while, and then digital computer mixing, MP3 kind of stuff came into the mix, and so I went with Tractor at first, and then Torque, and then Tractor again, and then Serato was just so good. And so Serato was like you know, so it was like the 1200 experience. I was like, oh, all of a sudden, let's just DJ, you know, and I was so enthusiastic about that experience, and I could tell, you know, just the intuitiveness of the software. I was like, this was made by people that I would like. And so I reached out to them, and it was all right, you know. It was like some of the greatest people in the world. I went to New Zealand and visited there. It was amazing, and so I love Serato. It's great. I am gonna have to use Rekordbox to use the CDJs, and I'm gonna learn it. But Serato, I love you. I need some new records.